Okay,
Hi,
ready.
I'm Amy Gold, and I'm here with Mary Mazurek, a Grammy-nominated engineer. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Of course, of course. We're so excited to have you. So we're just gonna hop right in with the questions. What is one thing you always keep in mind when going into a project with an artist, and why?
One thing I keep in mind. Well, it's always about serving the music. And okay, is that going to be a problem? My dog is in the background. Okay,
Oh
he's
no,
going to
you're
say no.
good. We love like natural settings. You're good.
Okay, could you repeat the question, please?
Yes, of course. What is one thing you always keep in mind when going into a project with an artist, and why?
Well, it's always about the music and serving the music. So I'm always very mindful of that going into a project. And, I choose my equipment and my microphones based on what will serve the music and the artist best.
Got it. What does being a woman in the industry, more specifically being an engineer, mean to you?
Um, it is actually really important because there's so very few women in recording. So we are less than 5% of the industry. So that means there are more women in construction. There are more women plumbers. There are more women in the military. There are more women rocket scientists than there are recording engineers. And I didn't know this going into it. And to some degree, I'm glad I didn't know because I might have not continued. But after I got my degree in recording engineering, I went out into the world to try to find some work, and I was told by a studio, we don't hire women engineers, but you can answer the phone if you'd like. And that was a little bit devastating at the time, but it also kind of fired me up, going like,
Mhm.
okay, I'll show you. So that studio has closed a long time ago, and 30 years later, I'm still working.
There we go. What is your role and mission for women in music, and how do you go about it?
Well, as I was saying, it's really important for me to serve as a mentor, serve as a role model for women coming up in the industry, especially in recording, since there are so few of us. And I do that by teaching and mentoring whenever possible. So I teach at the college level, really encourage women. I also just recently took over as the chair, one of the chair people for the Diversity and Inclusion Committee of the Audio Engineering Society.
Awesome. And you mentioned education, which ties into our next question. Education is an important aspect in your career, both continuing your own and educating others. What made you passionate about education?
Well, there are different ways to come up in this industry. Some people do not do it via a college degree, but there was no other entry point for me at the time than to do it in college. And actually, that's how I really found out about it as a career to begin with,
Mhm.
because there was very little you could do at home, in the late 80s, early 90s. You had to be working for a studio. And I didn't have any connections. I didn't know anything about the industry. So school gave me those connections as well as taught me skills that allowed me to work in the industries. So you know, I think a formal education myself is very beneficial, though a lot of people do not go that route. It's just you're going to make connections, you're going to learn perspectives you might not have thought of if you were teaching yourself.
Mhm.
So I'm a big proponent of that.
Great. Um, how does being recognized at the Grammys in 2018 as a nominee make you want to work harder? And what have you done since then to reflect?
Well, yeah, I received my nomination in 2018, and that was the medal and the certificate were presented at the 2019 Grammy Awards, and it was a very proud moment for me. a little bit, it took a while to kind of sink in, like like maybe a year later, like, oh yeah, I was a Grammy nominee. That's kind of awesome. um, so yeah, I was really, really proud to receive that. And, you know, I just was, I'm just continuing to do the best work I can and put music out in the world. And maybe I will be so fortunate to receive another one in the
I can
future.
see that happening soon.
Mhm.
You also pursue and have exhibited in other art forms, including photography, music
Mhm.
performances, and films. What inspired you to get into those other art forms?
Well, I mean, I've always had this kind of creative side to me, and I was thinking about getting a master's degree, and I had been working in the recording business for a while, and I was thinking, oh, maybe I'll get a master's degree. What should I get a master's degree in? And I had this other creative side that I felt like I wanted to explore. So I got an MFA in interdisciplinary art. So I was able to incorporate some of my audio skills in that major and create some art. So I really like the form of installation art, so art that you kind of walk into and you're kind of immersed into it. So
Mhm.
into this in like hyper real environment with surround sound because that's what I do. So I really enjoyed creating pieces like that. I've also created some experimental films, short films, and a couple of documentary short films that were screened in a couple film festivals. So that was cool.
How does creating art outside of music benefit your career?
Yeah, I think it just stimulates the creative portion of my brain, and it's not isolated in a vacuum. It influences how I teach, it influences how I record. It just makes me more creative in general.
You're truly ambitious in all of your pursuits. So, what advice would you give to a young woman looking to get into engineering?
Yeah, I think maybe this is like the best time to do it because there's so much awareness around diversity, equity, and inclusion. And, we're here to support you. And you guys are doing such great work to support women in music. And there are other organizations like Sound Girls and Women's Audio Mission. And, we're out there, and AES, we're really committed to increasing diversity, equity, and inclusion. So I think this is a really good time to begin in this business. And also, I would advise to seek out mentors. Not,
Mhm.
I mean, women mentors if possible. Um, and again, organizations like Sound Girls can, and the Grammy organization can connect young engineers or up and coming engineers with mentors. I think having a mentor is really, really a great thing, and many mentors. I think women mentors are good for women just because you see someone succeeding who's
Mhm.
like you. But I personally have had both women and men mentors, so I think it's important to have both.
Nice. And you did mention mentor, which again ties into the next question. Who have been some of your female mentors over the years in music or otherwise?
Okay, great. Well, one of my early recording mentors, her name was or is Larita de la Serna, and her specialization is Foley and ADR recording. And I was her assistant at Universal Recording in the early 90s, and she was very tough on me. And I tell her this. I tell her this too. I figured she hadn't thrown me out of a session, so she was just showing me some tough love. So she kind of taught me I had to work at a very high standard. because and she did warn me about the disparity of women in the industry, and I didn't really quite know what she was talking about at the time because at Universal everybody was really nice to me, and even though they were mostly male engineer, actually they were all male engineers except for Larita. So I
Mhm.
wasn't quite sure what she was talking about, except for after that studio closed, the next studio I went to, I received, we don't hire women engineers. So then I knew what she was talking about. But she was succeeding. She ended up going to LA, and I was like, oh, okay, she can do it. She's working in this business. Okay, that it's possible. I'm just going to figure it out because I know it, at least it's possible. Um, and I'm trying to think who else. I think also my high school choir teacher, Miss Borgeli. I think she was really great. She was really encouraging about me going into music, study of music. And she actually stood by me when the guidance counselor told me, "Oh no, that's a ridiculous profession to go into, and we're not going to allow you and her to go to my audition for music school during school time." So she really went to bat for me. And I think we went over the guidance counselor's head to the principal, who was like, okay, you can, yeah, of course you can go.
And our final question, what are some of the most important lessons you've learned from them?
Perseverance for something. Yeah, just keep at it. Just believe in yourself and keep going. Those are really like important lessons that they both offered.
Wonderful. Thank you again. This was such an amazing interview. Where can they find you? What's your Instagram website? Where can our listeners find you?
Yeah, my website is marymazurek.com, MaryMazurek.com. Instagram is Mary Mazurek, Facebook Mary Mazurek. Really, really easy.
Awesome. Thank you again. This is Feminine Roar, and I'm here with Miss Mary Mazurek, a Grammy nominated engineer. So thank you for watching.